Ginny Metheral. I'm a fourth generation witch, and I'm here today to tell you about the top 5 witches' Sabbats that happen throughout the year. But before we get into this video, I just wanted to ask you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to my channel so I can carry on making great video content for you. And if you could also hit that notification bell and like button, I'd be thrilled and really grateful. Anyway, so let's get on with it. So this is the top 5 witches' Sabbats that happen throughout the year. So what is a Sabbat? Well, a Sabbat was merely a gathering of witches and warlocks to celebrate a particular day of the year. And these gatherings happened all over the country, obviously, and would involve maybe bonfires and dancing and feasting and possibly some satanic worship, maybe some calling up of devils, maybe some dark magic, depending on your want. You know, if you're a dark satanist, you might speak to the devil. If you were a white witch, you might ask to get greater affinity to speaking with animals. So a witch's Sabbat was basically a set of dates throughout the year, a bit like our holidays now, that the good witches and the bad witches might both celebrate together or not, depending on the event. Anyway, so let's get straight into this video. At number 5, which is of course the one that everybody knows and the most famous and the one that most people still celebrate today, which is of course Halloween. So Halloween is traditionally quite an event. You know, you would dress up and put on your zombie or werewolf or whatever costume. You would maybe have a bonfire, you would carve some pumpkins, put them around the outside of your house, and generally have a gathering and get together. Now there's a reason for this. In the olden days, this Sabbat was known as Sawn, which is not pronounced the way it is spelt because the Celts like to be difficult and keep us away from their language. Well, that's my personal view on it. I can never get how they could possibly say that this spelling is pronounced like this. However, anyway, so Sawn was where the witches would have their greatest Sabbat. They believed that this is at the time of year when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. Therefore, you had a greater opportunity to talk with the afterlife and with the dead and to learn their secrets. During the night, demons would roam the land, casting mischief and causing trouble as they passed, and witches, knowing this, held rituals and spells that could harness their power and use it for their own advantages. In order to offset this, people would carve out pumpkins to frighten the evil spirits away from their door, and dressing up as a demon or a zombie or a witch or whatever evil creature you were most frightened of meant that you could also frighten off that particular spirit. So to dress up as a werewolf would frighten off any werewolves that might be hanging around. People would get together for safety in numbers and dressing up as their spirit or their witch or whatever they're dressing up as, and with their carved pumpkins, hey presto, you've got a Halloween party. It was also believed that loud noises would scare evil spirits away from your door, and so they would bang a drum, maybe sing some songs, maybe drink a bit, have a nice time. All of this is to offset what the witches were doing over on the other side of the hill, which is talking to the dead, raising demons, and generally being quite witchy. Anyway, lots have been written about Halloween, so I won't really go on any more about it, but it turns up at a great number 5. So following, pretty much after Halloween, is of course our number 4 spot, which is Youll. Now Youll is a solstice Sabbath, meaning it falls on or around the 21st in the northern hemisphere of December, somewhere around that, and it is when the sun is at its weakest and lowest point in the sky and it's furthest away from the earth. It is a dark and drear time of year, and so witches would celebrate this by having a huge bonfire, bringing light and chasing out the dark tendrils out of your home and into the air. It's on this date that garlands would be brought into the house, especially holly, ivy, mistletoe, the evergreens, and fir trees, whatever was green and available. And these garlands would represent the newness of the life that was going to come. For witches, the mistletoe, think druids cutting down mistletoe with their sickle, was actually a hugely important plant at this time of year. It was brought into the house, and the white orbs of its berries would represent the lunar goddess. Now, the lunar goddess is at her strongest at this point of the year, and hence why you bring the mistletoe in to help celebrate her at Youll. Druids would cut mistletoe with their silver curved sickles, and this organic curving of the sickle represented the organic curves of the moon. As a mistletoe was brought in, it was hung up, and you'd obviously kiss underneath it, and each kiss that you had, you would remove one of its beautiful lunar orb berries and put it away, throw it away, whatever. Once all berries had been taken, that was the end. It was mistletoe's magic. So Youll is a great fire festival for witches. It is when they consecrated their hearths, they consecrated their cauldrons, they used fire, which is a hugely useful property to a witch. It cleanses, it kills, it breathes life into, it helps, it lifts, it does so many different magical things that they would consecrate and celebrate this day of fire. So that is Youll, and that comes in number 4. Getting into our top 3, in at number 3 is Imbolc. What, I hear you say, is Imbolc? Well, it is the great festival of spring. It celebrates the awakening of the goddess Brigid after the birth of her son. She comes forth in all her great maidenhead and virginity. It is also generally celebrated on the 1st of February of each year, and it is the new year for the witches, so a time of great joy and hope. It's not a great time for feasting because, in the olden days, there wasn't very much to feast on in February. It was a lean time of the year. You'd got through your winter stalls. There's nothing growing in the ground really at the moment, and so you're a bit hungry. So it wasn't a time of feasting and celebration in that way. It was just a time of hope. People would go to their local witch, who would give them a little poppet, a little doll, and with these dolls and little poppets, they placed them round their house to ward off the evils of the coming year and ensure that there was serenity and peacefulness in their abode. The witches themselves would always take their broomsticks and sweep out their hearths and clear them out the door, signifying out with the old, in with the new. They would also take a little milk or dairy because that was pretty much the only stuff around at the time. You could get some milk because animals were being born, so you could siphon a bit off, and have some cheese or some butter or something as a slight celebration. As sunset approached, candles were lit in each of the rooms of the house to light up your whole home and give it that air of hope and joy and forward-thinkingness. It was a time for lovers. So many people would maybe go to their local wise woman and ask for a love spell. Love spells are considered at this time of year to be particularly attractive because it is the time of year for lovers. And so if you want to attract a mate, now it's time to go and look for one. Of course, when the Christians came, Brigid was turned into St. Brigid of Kildare. And instead of little poppets and dolls being made to put around your house, they would make crosses and put those around the house. And this is still done today, so you can still see the traditional festival carrying on through into our generation. Imbolc is one of my favourite festivals because, thank goodness it's spring. The long days of winter are coming to an end. You can see hope on the horizon. The snowdrops are blooming, and I think they're the most beautiful flower. Traditionally, snowdrops were meant for purity and virginity, and it was very unlucky to bring them into your house. You must always leave them wild outside where you can admire them for their simplicity, purity and truth. Anyway, so that's Imbolc for you, and that comes in number 3. This leads us nicely into our number 2 festival. From spring we get to summer. So I have brought in the summer solstice. This in the Northern Hemisphere falls on or around the 21st of June each year and was celebrated throughout the Northern Hemisphere by bonfires throughout the night. People would stay up to greet the dawn and light their bonfires. The summer solstice was celebrated often with quite a lot of debauchery. This is not the spring festival or the Beltane festival, which is considered a fertility festival. This was just pure debauchery. Drinking, carousing, being a bit debauched, dancing through the night on your bonfire and celebrating the great power of the sun. This is what the summer solstice is about. Stonehenge, that ancient Neolithic monument in Wiltshire, was aligned with the solstice of the sun for the 21st of June, and on this day the peoples of the area would have gathered together. There would have been huge parades with torches and garlands. People wore great wreaths of greenery and flowers upon their head. St. John's Wort, which is named after St. John the Baptist, whose saint's day is on the 24th of June, was actually not called St. John's Wort. It was taken over by the Christians, because its name was actually chase devil in the old traditional times, because they believed that the flowers would chase the evil spirits away, and that's why they wove them, the people of the time, into their hair and into their garlands. This is a great Sabbath for witches. They would fly to their Sabbats on their broomsticks with their hair unbound. Binding your hair bound your magic, and so a witch needed to leave her hair flying loose. And this is why they would light huge bonfires, the people of today, to guard against those witches coming anywhere near them, so they could see them and look out for them. They would bring their broomsticks with them to brush out the circle that the witches would cast, and also their familiars, so their animal helpers. And it was on this day that you could learn to speak to your familiars and give them the orders that would send them forth for the next 6 months or so of the year. Right, so summer solstice, that comes in as our number 2. And so we get to that number 1 spot. What could it possibly be? Well, this is actually my favourite festival, not because I celebrate it, but because it makes my skin shiver and I look over my shoulder and under my bed before I go to sleep at night. For it is the 30th of April, Walpurgisnacht, which is, as I hear you say, surely the eve of St. Walpurga. Well, no, it's not. Traditionally, the 30th of April was the devil's birthday. And that is when the devil rides out. Not just him, but all his minions. If you call the devil will appear. It was a great time for sacrifice. Not the nice stuff, we're sacrificing goats and cockerels and virginity and human babies. Well, don't go there, in my opinion. If you ask for the devil will appear. One of the reasons that the May Day processions were so prolific was not only to celebrate the fertility of the time, but to chase away those evil demons that had come up the night before. I don't recommend that you go around celebrating the devil's birthday. If you ask for him, he will appear, after all. Anyway, that was my top 5 great witches' Sabbats. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, the like button, all of that, and share with your friends so I can see you in my next video.